Welcome to Uncensored Ramblings. My name is Jack Willard. Uncensored Ramblings, a program for Akeem Jeffries to ignore and keep on walking. For a lughead to scratch his head and shrug his shoulders. And for a person with potential to ask more questions. Sure hope you're in that category. The subtitle of this, the third episode of Uncensored Ramblings, New York State in Peril. Let's focus on sanitary napkins. Now watch all three of the episodes here. By the time you see this one, there may be many more. They're relatively short programs because I know you're busy. After we talk about this issue out of Albany, New York, we're going to have a synopsis on the events of our times. And even if you're watching this much later, I think you'll find that interesting. So again, I'm so glad that you joined us. Well, let's see what happened on November 19th with the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul. 4 separate pieces of legislation, really. The first legislation replaces the phrases feminine hygiene products and sanitary napkins. What's the replacement? Gender non-specific menstrual products. The second branch of legislation requires menstrual products to be provided to students for free in private, middle, and high school restrooms. Okay, now they're going to end up being thrown around in class and who knows where else, but okay, they need to have access. You don't want a poor child not having one. The third branch of legislation designates March 8th each year as International Women's Day. The fourth branch of legislation does not designate International Men's Day. No, it requires cosmetologists to receive training on all hair types and patterns. Let's see, requires. Governor Kathy Hochul signed the Health, Equality, and Opportunity legislative package, which further supports the state's commitment to gender inclusivity and will provide necessary resources to New York's youth. Legislation in this package addresses a wide range of issues, from legislation which requires middle and high school students to be provided free menstrual products in school bathrooms. Also, legislation which requires cosmetologists to receive training on all hair types and patterns, including natural hair types, throughout their education. We know more than ever. This is a quote from Kathy Hochul. We know more than ever before the positive impact inclusivity has on communities, and in New York, we're taking the steps to ensure equality for all, and from health care to hair care. From simply updating the way certain products are referred to, I'm not sure if this means a ban on what the package can say if it's going to be sold in New York City, to expanding access to vital resources for those who may need them most. as time progresses. And she says, to be accurate, as time progresses, so should our laws. More laws. State Senator Roxanne Persaud said New York State has been a leader in the menstrual equality movement, and today takes a critical step in continuing that leadership. Outdated terminology perpetuates stigma surrounding menstruation, which ultimately discourages conservatives that enables access to basic resources. This bill recognized the simple reality that menstruation is not dirty, but rather a natural bodily function. In doing so, we take another step in lifting the stigma, combating period poverty. Who knew? Period poverty, and ensuring equal dignity for all individuals who menstruate throughout New York. For all individuals, not females, but for all individuals who menstruate. Very politically correct, huh? Another branch of the legislation we talked about requires these products to be provided for free, which seems reasonable. Another state senator says, Senator Chu, a stigma around menstruation and menstrual inequalities continues to impact thousands of students in New York State. 25% of menstruating individuals, that's an important word, do not have access to period products, which are a basic necessity that can be burdensome, expensive for families. Without these products, students are likely to miss classes and school days. And then Assembly member Linda Rosenthal said, "For years I have proudly led the fight in New York State for menstrual equality and to smash the stigma associated with periods." And there are other comments from Assembly. It's not Assembly woman. It's Assembly member. It's not Assembly man. It's Assembly member now. Assembly Reyes and Hinchy piped in too. Quite a few senators did. So, I can only imagine where some of the free menstrual pads, products, will end up being thrown around class, in the hallway, etc. I can imagine that. Seems like there might be a better way to accomplish the distribution. We have a situation where especially senior citizens that live upstate are afraid to go into New York City. They are absolutely terrified of the thought. Someone like me used to park at the Port Authority garage. Excuse me. Because you could park the car yourself. And then you just, there's several levels. And you take the elevator down to the street where the Port Authority bus terminal is. And then you go on your way. It was cheaper and easier. You worried about parking in these tight parking garages where someone would peel out with your car and park it in a tiny spot. So I used to do that. I used to love the idea of going to New York City. I don't feel that way anymore. The crime has run rampant. People are gravely hurt in broad daylight, robbed in broad daylight too, pushed in front of trains, accosted down under the subways. Young kids going into bars late at night with knives and maybe guns and robbing people. Cops completely overwhelmed. And now, as I talk to you, and we'll speak about this in the update, we have Palestinian college students, in some cases, terrorizing the city. They tried to overwhelm the tree lighting ceremony in Rockefeller Center, but the cops did a marvelous job in keeping them away from that. And everything is so expensive. The toll for the George Washington Bridge, oh my goodness, it's cheaper if you take the tap. The traffic in New York City is still congested. So Hochul and Adams, Mayor Adams, came up with congestion pricing. You find yourself driving into the heart of Manhattan, and you could have to pay huge prices. You'll get the ticket in the mail. It's not so much a ticket, it's the fee. It's the fee for driving Manhattan in 2023. Because if your city is in decline, if businesses are leaving and people are not going to Broadway shows like they used to, make it so it's even more expensive. Hammer them even more as they leave your city and go to Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, and other places. Make it to the point between the crime and, of course, the police are trying to do their job. So many of them have given up. But we have this DA Bragg in New York City that will not prosecute. They came up with cashless bail, and then they said, well, basically, it's okay to go in and shoplift in a store, but don't go over $950. We're living in crazy time. This is like Jack Nicholson in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Governor Hochul should have said a long time ago, D.A. Bragg, this ain't working. We can't have our stores closing because they're being robbed right and left. People carrying out big flat screen TVs, and they know there'll be no repercussions, no jail time. It's insanity. Instead of keeping her promise to do that, we're talking about sanitary napkins in November of 2023. Want to just talk a little bit about the times we live in. This is kind of a photograph of where we are right now. I'm talking to you in early December, very early December 2023. And the truce, the ceasefire in Israel has ended after a number of days of hostages being released. They have a job to do, which President Biden said he totally understood, as did Secretary of State Blinken, that they could not fight half a war, that they had to destroy Hamas. They had to destroy Hamas because they pledged, Hamas has pledged many times, that they will not stop until every Jew is eliminated. Every Jew is eliminated. And they performed the most inhuman atrocities on October 7th in Israel. So, they want to eliminate Hamas. Is that a doable thing? I'm not so sure, to be honest. But they want to continue. They want to get those tunnels destroyed, etc., etc. What this means for the future of Gaza, we don't really know at this time. There's been a lot of talk about innocent people in Gaza, and I don't totally disagree with that. You know, the Gaza children, the Palestinians in Gaza, the young children especially, matter. They matter to God. I saw a posting that says, I'm tired of all this talk about the rights of the Gaza people. Our enemies in Gaza are everybody from 1 year old to 100. Well, I don't think we can certainly back that up spiritually. I don't think God would have us say, let's kill the children. That's not how I read the Bible. So once Israel came in to northern Gaza, it seems like what you want to do is most of your operations on the ground. But of course, if Hezbollah starts sending rockets, Iran, what have you, you're going to have to use firepower as well, including firepower in some of those places where those rockets are coming from. And we've done some of that already. We have tried to take out various sites, storage sites, and what have you. Haven't done enough in that area. But of course, we don't want World War III, and it's closer than it has ever been. And then here in America, we have college students. Not just NYU, but Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., the children of Palestinians, and they hate America, and they hate Jewish people. From the river to the sea, which means kill every Jew. Kill every Jew. They have terrorized Jewish college students. And I have heard nothing so far as I do this broadcast of we need to have the National Guard here. The police can't do everything. Now, there has been some peaceful protesting up and down the streets and in Washington Park and other places, but they want to go to the places where they can be most disruptive, whether it be in front of Fox News or whether it be at a Jewish-owned building. And they want to enter that building, and they want to cause a ruckus and scare people. And of course, that eventually turns into physical violence, and already has in some cases. And that can't be tolerated. That's not lawful protesting. That requires arrest. And it makes no sense if as soon as they're arrested, they're being processed out. We have to have bail reform. I'm actually a pretty liberal person when it comes for something like prison reform. I don't think people should be treated terribly in prison. If people are cooperating, they should be given every right to have a degree of privilege and feel human and what have you. I don't believe in solitary confinement unless it is absolutely necessary. That is something that we wouldn't want for our loved one, would we? So, protesting peacefully is an American right. But when they are shouting hate speech, can you imagine if this was the Republicans shouting those kind of things for, say, the elimination of, I don't know, Hollywood, California, because that's where all the liberals are, you know? It would be a whole different story. The double standard, the hypocrisy in 2023 as we get ready to close out and bring in 2024 has never been this humongous. It's never been this humongous. Final thing to say on this third edition of Uncensored Ramblings is that the DeSantis-Newsom debate, which was with Sean Hannity on Fox News, was awesome. DeSantis did a wonderful job. Newsom did his usual shuck and jive, lies, 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 which both Sean Hannity threw actual charts, and the wisdom of Navy SEAL Governor Ron DeSantis was able to point out that really, in so many ways, Governor Newsom, who may look like he could play a Hollywood, leading man. He could play the president in a movie, but to actually be the president when he's destroyed San Francisco and so much damage to Los Angeles, highest homeless rate, highest crime rate, etc., etc., to have this man running the country. And it could happen no matter what he says now as I speak to you. If come convention time, Joe Biden says he cannot handle the presidency, there could be a move from the DNC for the delegates to give their loyalty to Governor Gavin Newsom. And then whoever we have at that point, and we're in a world of chaos here between Trump and the courts and what have you, well, then in a case like that, we would have very little time to get the momentum going to, especially if Trump is ruled ineligible late, even if he wins the primaries, and is the clear victor, if they find a way to keep him from running, either through, a jail cell, the 14th Amendment, whatever, then it's going to be very difficult for the Republican Party. Yes, that is the time that we live in. A huge amount of so-called Democrats are for censorship. They are for censorship. Isn't that interesting? They don't want the other side to be heard, whether it be on TikTok, Facebook, X, or wherever. They don't want a poisoning. They don't. The word poison was in there, very apropos. They don't want opposing viewpoints. They just want to get their way. They're like a petulant 3-year-old. Their party is filled with progressives that hijack the Democratic Party and have brought it into destruction. They hate America. They have their own agenda, and even they won't like what comes from their agenda, the fruit that it bears. My personal email, jackthefairguy, F-A-I-R, jackthefairguy@gmail.com. Join us again for Uncensored Ramblings.